Today we will start new lesson, chapter 2, lesson 5. We are talking about the derivation or the derivatives of the trigonometric functions. The main objective from this lesson is to obtain formulas for the derivatives of the 6 trigonometric functions. All of us know that the 6 trigonometric functions that we talked about in Algebra 2, that was sine, cosine, tan, cotan, secant, and cosecant. In this lesson, we learn how can we find the derivation of each one. Let's start with the first one. Derivation of sine is cosine. Okay, the derivation of cosine is sine is cosine, and the derivation of cosine is negative sine. Be careful. The derivation of sine is cosine, but the cosine is negative sine. The derivation of tan is secant square. The derivation of cotan is negative cosecant square. Derivation of secant is secant tan, and the derivation of cosecant is cosecant cotan. Yeah, I will repeat. Yes, Sima, what is the derivation of sine?
Cosine.
Okay. Now, Dana, الأغا, what is the derivation of secant?
Secant tan.
Secant tan. So look at the secant and cosecant. Secant, it have its derivation secant too. Secant tan. And the cosecant, it has cosecant. Then cotan. Now, Darien, what is the derivation of tan?
Secant squared.
Secant square, thank you. Hannah, what is the derivation of cotan?
Is the secant but by negative.
Negative cosecant square, thank you. Lana, what is the derivation of cosine?
Cosine, negative sine.
Negative sine, thank you. Maryam Hamdi, what is the derivation of sine? Mihad, what is the derivation of sine?
Cosine.
Cosine, thank you. Najd, what is the derivation of secant? Sadan, what is the derivation of cosecant? MashaAllah. Shahid Hisham, what is the derivation of secant?
Secant tan.
Secant. Secant tan. Okay, sorry. Shahid Yasser, derivation of cotan.
Negative cosecant squared.
Yes. And Tala, derivation of cosecant.
What, teacher?
Derivation of cosecant.
Negative cosecant and CO2. I forgot what it is.
Okay, cotan, cosecant. Cosecant,
Okay, negative
cotan.
X. Okay.
Okay. Now, look here. So the first one, sine, the derivation of it is cosine. And the derivation of cosine is negative sine. Now, for the secant, okay, which start with letter S, it must have secant and tan. So with tan, we have secant. And with secant, we have tan. So if we have secant, we have secant tan. But if we have tan, we have secant square. So every time when we find tan, we have secant. But also with cotan and cosecant, Look at them. They both of them start with letter C. Cotan, cosecant. And with cosecant, we have also cotan and cosecant. Now, if you look at the cosine, cotan, and cosecant, all of them start with letter C. Is it right? And the derivation of each of them is negative. So if you see letter C, like cosecant, cotan, or cosine, the derivation must be minus. But sine, tan, secant is positive. This is the first thing. Now, from where they bring it? Look at, as an example, let's find how can we find the derivation of tan? From where they know it is secant square? They used the limit. Did you remember that when you say limit, f of x plus h minus f of h over h when h pressed to 0? Their limit. The first lesson, how can you use the derivation, or how can we find the derivation using the limit? By using the limit, they can find the derivation of sine and cosine. Now let's find the derivation of tan. What is the derivation of tan? Let's find it here. Let's prove that the derivation of tan is secant square. Look at me how here. Now, all of us know that tan of x is what? Sine over cosine. Is it right? The
Yes.
tan is sine over cosine. Now, if I want now to find tan prime, or the derivation of tan, look at them. Are they f of x over g of x? Are they two functions that they are divided?
Yes.
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 So
Yes.
let's name the first one with f and the second one with g. Then, and we say it using the give me 1 minute, please. And if I want to find the derivation of f over g, the quotient rule, we said g squared, then g f prime minus f g prime. Is it right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's use it here now. Now, where's f? It is sine. Where's f prime? Now, f is sine. What is the derivation of sine?
Cosine.
Cosine. Then we say that g is cosine. What is the derivation of cosine?
Negative
Negative
sign.
sign.
Negative sine. Thank you. So it will be negative sine. Then after that, come back here. Now, g squared. Where's g squared? It is cosine x squared. Then g, where's g?
Cosine.
Is
It is cosine x
cosine.
times. Where's f prime?
Is sine.
Sine. Thank you. Minus f. Wait, I said cosine times cosine because it was f prime. Cosine times cosine minus f, which is sine, times g prime. Where's g prime? It's negative sine.
Sine x.
Now, by now, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
All
teacher.
of you, is it clear? Because I want to continue. Now I will go
Yes,
back to
teacher.
chapter 14.
Yes, teacher.
Chapter 14, algebra 2. Yeah.
Teacher,
Yes.
We should know this.
Yes, may I ask you prove that the derivation of secant is secant tan? Okay, and also in the quiz, I will not tell you that if you know that cosine, the derivation of cosine is negative sine, find blah blah blah. You have to know them. And later on, you will have examples.
So we should memorize those.
Yes, you have to know what is the derivation of each one, and you have to know them because later on, inshallah, in the second semester, you have to know to talk about the integration of them. The integration is different than the derivation. And then later on, sometimes you have to need the derivation and the integration at the same time.
Teacher, till what chapter we're going to take?
The integration,
Yes.
chapter 4.
Yani this is the last chapter, chapter 4.
No, this semester, inshallah, I don't know, but inshallah, I will try to finish chapter 2, and maybe we will start with or no, we will finish chapter 2 because integration it's opposite of derivation, and I don't want to you to to get confused between the integration and the derivation. So I will let the integration for the next semester.
Okay.
Okay. So by now, is it clear from where we bring f and f prime, g and g prime? Then cosine times cosine is what? Cosine squared minus sine multiplied by negative sine squared
Negative sign.
over cosine squared of x. Then here it will be cosine squared x plus sine squared x over cosine squared of x. Now, cosine squared plus plus sine squared equal to what? As you said in chapter 14. Yes, cosine squared plus sine squared. Who remember?
1.
1, thank you. It is 1 over cosine squared. And 1 over cosine, it's equal to what? Chapter 14, Algebra 2, 1 over cosine is secant.
Secant.
And 1 over cosine squared, it will be secant squared. So we prove that the derivation of tan is secant square x. Is it clear?
Yes.
Okay. So the derivation of sine cosine of cosine is negative sine, of tan is secant square, of cotan is negative cosecant square, of secant is secant tan, and of cosecant is negative cosecant cotan. Now find the derivation of dy over dx if y is x sine x. Look at here, we have a variable x multiplied by one of the 6 trigonometric function, which is sine x. So y is x sine x. I want to find now dy over dx using the power rule. Is it right? Let's name this with f and this is with g. And we say that if we have f times g, the derivation is g prime f plus f prime g. Now, g prime, and we said that g is sine x. So what will be g prime? What is the derivation of sine?
Sine.
Cosine. And we say that f is x. So what will be f prime?
1.
Yes, then dy over dx is g prime. Where's g prime? It is cosine
Cosine
times f. Where's f?
over times
X.
Times x
X.
plus f
Plus
prime
1.
is 1
plus
times.
1
What's the derivation of
Plus sine.
g? Where's g?
cosine x.
G sine x. And here is g. Okay?
Okay.
So dy over dx, it will be x cosine x plus sine x. This is the derivation of x sine x. Is it clear?
Yes.
Let's find this one now. What is dy over dx if y is sine x over 1 plus cosine x? Here y is sine x over 1 plus cosine x. So as we did in the quotient rule, let's name this is f and this is g. Then f over g, its rule was the quotient rule. What did we say? G squared, g times f prime minus f times g prime. Is it right?
Prime. Yes.
Okay. Then we have to say we say that f is sine x. If sine x, so f prime will be
Cosine.
Sine.
cosine. Thank you. Then if g is 1 plus cosine x, so g prime it will be
Negative sine.
negative sine. Thank you. And the 1 it will be 0. Then back here. So y prime is g squared. Where's g? 1 plus cosine
Cosine.
squared. Then g, where is g? It is 1
1 plus
plus
cosine x.
sine.
times f prime
Cosine x.
Cosine x.
x minus f, which is sine x,
Sine x
times,
times
where is g
negative
prime?
sine x.
Negative sine x.
Negative sine x.
Thank you. Then let's simplify it. Cosine x plus cosine squared x using the distributive property. Minus times minus is a plus. Sine squared x over 1 plus cosine x squared. Is it right?
Yes, teacher.
Then sine plus cosine is 1, as we said before. So after simplify it will be 1 plus cosine x over 1 plus cosine x squared. Can I simplify it now?
Can be simplified.
Yes.
Can be?
Yes, it can be simplified.
Thank you. Dividing by 1 plus over x, so it will be
1 plus cosine x.
1 over 1 plus cosine x. Is it clear now?
Yes.
Yes, teacher.
Let's do now these exercises here. Look at the first one. Number 1. F of x is 4 cosine x plus 2 sine x. Then, yeah, let's start. F prime of x, it will be 4, make it, do you remember like when you say 4x squared, we keep the 4 outside?
Yes.
Here we have to do the same. Drop the 4 outside. Then, what is the derivation of cosine?
So, negative sign.
Negative sign. Plus. Now, as we did, put it 2 outside. Then what is the derivation of sine?
Cosine.
Cosine, thank you. So the final answer is negative 4 sine x plus 2 cosine x. This is f prime. Is it clear?
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
Okay. Let's do now number 2. F of x is 5 over x squared plus sine x. This one, if you want to simplify it, how can we write it? 5x raised to the power
Negative 2.
negative 2
Negative 2.
plus sine x. This is f of x. Now I need to find f prime of x. Yes, yeah, Dareen. How can you define the derivation of this function?
It's going to be negative 10x to the power of negative 3.
Negative 10x to the power of negative 3. Thank you. Plus, what is the derivation of sine?
Cosine.
Cosine. Thank you. Number 3, we solved like that. Let's see number 4. In number 4 here, we have f of x equal to sine squared x. Now, sine squared, I want you now to write it as 2 sine x times sine x. Okay, this one, it is a multiplied of sine times sine. Is it right?
Yes, teacher.
So, f prime of x, it will be, let's name this one with g and this one with h. So, if g is 2 sine x, g prime, it will be 2 cosine x. Is it right?
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
And if h is sine x, h
It will be
prime
cosine.
cosine x.
Cosine x.
Thank you. Now, back to the derivation. G prime. We said that if we have two functions that are multiplied, we say hg prime plus g h prime. So what's h? It is sine x
Sine x.
times. Where's g prime?
2 cosine x.
It is 2
Cosine X.
plus. Where's
Plus 2 sine x.
g? It is 2 sine x
Cosine X.
times. Where's g prime?
Times cosine X.
Cosine x. So it will be 2 sine x cosine x plus 2 sine x cosine x, which is v. Can we add them?
Yes.
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 4 sine x cosine x. This will be its derivation. Later on, inshallah, on next lesson, we will talk about chain rule. And this chain rule, without using or without solving it with these details, we just multiply 2 times 2, which is 4, times a derivation of sine, which is cosine, and we wrote it down. Later on, inshallah, we will talk about it. Now, is it clear?
Teacher, why not 2 cosine?
Sorry, Daria?
Why not 2 cosine?
Why not 2 cosine?
Because we multiply 1 by 1.